Too many goalies have a bad game and let it affect their confidence for way too long. One bad game leads to low confidence, which leads to another bad game, which leads to even lower confidence. And before you know it, you're in a cycle that you're finding it hard to get out of. So how can you bounce back after a bad game? This is what I would do. If you like these kinds of videos, please consider subscribing to the channel and check out our Goalie Light program that we just released in the description below. Let's start with putting a bad game in context. It's literally just one game, that's it. There are 100 possible reasons for why the game didn't go your way. In hockey, some bad bounces make all the difference. In fact, the difference between a good game and a bad game isn't as big as you think. A goalie faces roughly 30 or more chances per game, which is plenty of opportunity for letting in a bad goal, a deflection, a weird play by your defense. Whatever it is, there are a lot of things that can go right or wrong that are not fully in your control. So you need to accept that. It's important for goalies to stay even-keeled. A good game doesn't mean you're Superman, and a bad game doesn't mean that you're the worst goalie out there. Luck is a big factor, so be grateful when you're lucky and be resilient when you're unlucky. This is a really important step, understanding the context of a bad game and what it means in the long run, which is very little. Now that we've got this understood, let's look at some practical steps that you can take after a bad game. I really like the idea of distracting yourself with things other than hockey. So when you get home after a game, put on a movie, put on something fun to watch. The next day after the game, hang out with your friends, get outside, do a workout, go in nature, walk in a park, go near some trees, go to a beach or a mountain. It depends on where you live, but getting in nature is good for our body and our mind, and it can be really helpful after a bad game. When you have bad energy, the kind that you have after a bad game, it's important to take that energy and channel it into something productive and useful. Working out or getting into nature is a great way to take that energy and use it for good. Another thing I recommend you do after a bad game is look up NHL scores online. On any given night, there's going to be a goalie that had a bad game in the NHL, and it can be really nice to see that it's not just you that had a bad night. There are other goalies at the highest level of the game that are dealing with the same feeling that you are. Getting back to channeling that energy for something productive, it can be helpful to understand why you had a bad game. Were you not seeing the puck well, not communicating with your defense? Were you letting pucks through you, not challenging enough, or weak on behind the net plays? Taking the time to analyze your game and making a plan to improve on your weak points is a really good idea. You don't need to do it right after a game. You don't need to beat yourself up about it, but it's important to have a plan so that you can learn from your mistakes and ensure that your bad game wasn't a waste of time because you're able to learn from it. The last piece of advice I have is what to do before your next game. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you have to redeem yourself. Don't think that the pressure is on now because you just had a bad game. That's a mistake, and it's something that you won't see a mentally strong pro athlete doing. What they do instead is treat everything like a process. It's just another game, and the last one doesn't matter. Control what you can control, which is your preparation. Don't waste time thinking about worst case scenarios. Instead, do something productive. Get a good warm up, visualize yourself making saves, do some breathing exercises, and then just go play. The reality is every goalie, every athlete is going to have a bad night. It's part of the game. It's something that you have to accept, and you can't let it affect you for the long term. You have to accept that having a bad game is part of life for any goalie or any athlete. You need to develop the ability to stop caring and just relax and accept that you had a bad game. It doesn't matter that much in the long run, and you're able to bounce back and move on from it. Doing all this will give you the best chance possible to bounce back from a bad game and ensure that it doesn't affect you in the future. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.